Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched the alien world grow larger on the main screen. After 6 months of space travel, they had finally reached their destination. The planet below them was covered in blue oceans, with floating crystal cities that sparkled like diamonds in the sunlight. "Sir, we're getting signals from the surface," said Amy Parker from her communications station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as strange sounds filled the bridge. The sounds were like music mixed with whale songs, beautiful and haunting at the same time. Dr. Lisa Barnes looked up from her science station with excitement in her eyes. "Captain, these readings are incredible. The cities down there are actually floating on the water, and the energy signatures suggest they're powered by some kind of biological system." Commander Ryan Hayes, the ship's tactical officer, checked his weapons displays one more time. Everything was powered down as ordered. This was a peaceful mission, humanity's first real attempt to make friends with an alien species. No weapons, no threats, just open hands and hopeful hearts. "Take us into orbit, Ben," Jake told his engineer, Lieutenant Ben Clark. The ship moved smoothly through space, its engines humming quietly. 3 days later, Jake found himself in a small shuttle heading down to the planet's surface. The alien beings had agreed to meet them at one of their floating cities. As the shuttle broke through the clouds, Jake saw something that took his breath away. The city was like nothing humans had ever built. Crystal towers rose from the water, connected by bridges that seemed to be made of solid light. Gardens floated in the air around the buildings, filled with plants that glowed softly in colors Jake had never seen before. And everywhere, there, was music. The entire city was singing. The shuttle landed on a platform made of what looked like living coral. As Jake and his team stepped out, they were greeted by beings that were unlike anything in human imagination. They were tall and graceful, with smooth skin that changed colors like a rainbow. Their faces were kind and intelligent, with large eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. One of the beings stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was like a gentle melody. Amy's translation device picked up the meaning. "Welcome, travelers, from the distant stars. I am called Harmony of Depths. We have been waiting for you." Jake removed his helmet and breathed the alien air for the first time. It was clean and sweet, filled with the scent of ocean and flowers. "I am Jake Morrison, captain of the human ship New Horizon. We come in peace, hoping to learn about your people and share knowledge of our own." Harmony of Depths smiled, and when she did, her skin glowed brighter. "Peace is the only song we know, Jake Morrison. Come, let us show you our world." The next few hours passed like a dream. The aliens, who called themselves the Vashti, took the humans through their incredible city. Everything was alive and growing. The buildings were not built but grown from living crystal that responded to the Vashti's songs. The gardens floated because the plants themselves could control gravity through their roots. Dr. Barnes was fascinated by everything she saw. "How do you make the crystals grow?" she asked a Vashti scientist named Current of Joy. "We sing to them," Current of Joy replied, her skin shifting to warm yellow colors that Amy's translator said meant happiness. "Every living thing has its own song. We learned long ago to hear these songs and sing along. When we sing together with the crystals, they grow in harmony with our needs." Ben Clark was amazed by their technology. The Vashti showed him power, systems that used the planet's own magnetic field combined with the bioelectricity of sea creatures. "No pollution, no waste," explained a young Vashti engineer named Depth Singer. "Everything gives to everything else. That is the way of harmony." Ryan Hayes found himself talking with Vashti who were interested in human history. They were shocked to learn about wars and conflicts, but not in a judgmental way. Instead, they wanted to understand how humans had learned to overcome these problems and reach for the stars. "Your species has known great pain," Harmony of Depths told Jake as they walked through a garden where the flowers sang in response to their footsteps. "Yet you did not let that pain destroy you. Instead, you used it to grow stronger and reach out to others. This is wisdom we can learn from." As the days passed, real friendships began to form. Jake spent long hours with Harmony of Depths, sharing stories of Earth's history and learning about the Vashti's ancient culture. The alien leader told him about their philosophy of living in harmony with all life, about their art and music that could heal both body and soul. Lisa Barnes worked closely with Vashti scientists, sharing human knowledge of medicine and biology, while learning about their incredible biotechnology. Together, they discovered ways to grow food that could adapt to any environment and medicines that could cure diseases by singing to the sick cells until they remembered how to be healthy. Amy Parker spent her time with Vashti linguists, developing better translation systems and learning the complex language of colors and sounds that the aliens used. She discovered that the Vashti didn't just talk with words. Their entire bodies were part of their communication, with skin colors and musical tones working together to create meaning. The Vashti were equally fascinated by human culture. They loved human music, especially the complex harmonies of Bach, and the emotional power of blues songs. They were amazed by human art and literature, by the way humans could create beauty even in the midst of struggle and pain. Ben Clark became close friends with several young Vashti engineers. Together they worked on improving both human and Vashti technology, finding ways to combine the best of both worlds. The Vashti taught him about organic technology that grew and healed itself, while he showed them human innovations in energy, storage, and space travel. After 2 months on the planet, Jake knew that this was the most important moment in human history. They had found not just intelligent life, but friends. True friends who cared about peace, beauty, and the welfare of all living things. The Vashti felt the same way. Harmony of Depths told Jake that their people had always believed they would someday meet other beings among the stars, beings who would share their love of harmony and growth. "You are the friends we have been singing for across the generations," she said, her skin glowing with deep blue colors that meant profound joy. "Your arrival completes a song that began before our grandparents were born." As the time came for the New Horizon to return to Earth, 3 young Vashti volunteered to come with them as ambassadors. Melody of Stars, Current of Joy, and Depth Singer were excited to see Earth and meet more humans. The entire Vashti city came to see them off, singing a farewell song that made the crystal buildings ring like bells. Jake stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the beautiful planet grow smaller. Behind them, in the cargo hold, were gifts from the Vashti, memory crystals containing their greatest music and scientific discoveries, seeds from their floating gardens, and samples of their healing crystals. "Set course for Earth," he told Ben Clark. His voice was filled with pride and excitement. They were going home with the greatest news in human history. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their new friends were everything they could have hoped for. The 3 Vashti ambassadors stood beside him, their skin glowing with anticipation. They were eager to see the blue world that had produced such remarkable beings, to meet the billions of humans who had created art and music and literature that moved their hearts. As the New Horizon jumped to faster than light speed, Jake Morrison smiled. The future had never looked brighter. Humanity and the Vashti would build something beautiful together, a friendship that would span the stars and bring peace to the galaxy. Behind them, the Vashti city continued its eternal song, now with new verses celebrating the arrival of their human friends and the bright future that lay ahead for both their peoples. 8 months later, the New Horizon was finally approaching the solar system. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the familiar stars grow brighter. Beside him, the 3 Vashti ambassadors pressed against the viewing windows, their skin glowing with excitement. "Soon we will see your beautiful Earth," said Melody of Stars, her colors shifting to bright gold. "We have dreamed of this moment for so long." Current of Joy hummed softly, a tune that made the ship's walls vibrate with harmony. "We cannot wait to meet more humans and share our songs with your people." Amy Parker was busy at her communications station, trying to contact Earth Control. "This is strange, Captain. I'm not getting any response from Earth Traffic Control. Let me try the Mars colonies." Jake frowned. It was unusual for Earth not to respond immediately. They had been sending messages ahead announcing their return, with the first alien ambassadors in human history. The whole solar system should be celebrating. "Still nothing from Mars, sir," Amy reported after several minutes. "I'm trying the asteroid mining stations now. Dr. Lisa Barnes looked up from her science station with worry in her eyes. "Captain, I'm not detecting any of the usual radio traffic from Earth. No television signals, no internet communications, nothing." A cold feeling began to grow in Jake's stomach. Something was very wrong. The solar system was too quiet, too empty of the constant chatter of human civilization. Ben Clark checked his navigation systems twice before speaking. "Sir, we're definitely in the right place. That's Earth ahead of us. But I'm not picking up any orbital traffic. No ships, no space stations responding." Ryan Hayes activated the ship's long-range sensors and went pale. "Captain, you need to see this." The main screen changed to show Earth, but it was not the blue and green world they remembered. The planet below them was brown and gray, with angry red spots that glowed like infected wounds. The polar ice caps were gone. The oceans looked black and wrong. "No," whispered Jake, his voice breaking. "This can't be real." The three Vashti ambassadors made sounds of horror and grief. Their skin turned dark gray, almost black. Depth Singer fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the psychic weight of what they were seeing. Amy's hands shook as she tried every emergency frequency she knew. "I'm getting automated distress signals, hundreds of them. They're all saying the same thing. The attacks began 6 months ago." 6 months ago. Just after the New Horizon had left the Vashti homeworld to return to Earth, Lisa Barnes ran every scan she could think of. The results were devastating. The atmosphere is full of radioactive particles. The oceans are boiling with nuclear fire. The temperature readings show that most of the surface was hit with energy weapons powerful enough to melt rock. Ben Clark's voice was barely a whisper. "The moon. Look at the moon." Earth's ancient companion was scarred with massive craters that had not been there before. Entire sections of the lunar surface had been blown away, leaving it looking like a broken egg. "Mars," Ryan said quietly, his tactical training helping him stay focused even as his heart broke. "Show me Mars." The red planet was worse. Something had cracked it open like a nut. The Great Canyon that had once been a marvel of planetary geology was now a gaping wound that went almost to the planet's core. The atmosphere was gone, blown away into space. Jake sank into his captain's chair as the full horror hit him. 8 billion people. Gone. All of them. His parents, his sister, his friends from the academy. The children who had sent drawings to space for the aliens to see. The old woman who had grown the roses he loved to smell when he was on Earth leave. All of them. Dead. "The weapon signatures," Lisa said, her scientific mind still working even as tears ran down her face. "I'm analyzing the energy patterns left in the debris fields." Amy was crying as she listened to the distress beacons. "They're mostly automated messages. But I found a few from people in the last moments. They're saying the attackers came without warning. Ships just appeared and started firing." "Captain." Lisa's voice was cold now, filled with a terrible understanding. "I know these weapon signatures. We've seen them before." Jake looked at her with dead eyes. "Who?" "The Kronak Empire. The energy patterns match exactly with the weapons. Data we recorded 3 years ago when we tried to negotiate with them. The Kronak." Jake remembered them well. A species of aggressive reptilian beings who had rejected human attempts at friendship. They had called humans weak and chaotic, unworthy of space travel. The negotiations had ended badly, with Kronak representatives stating that the galaxy would be better off without human interference. But no one had expected this. No one had thought they would commit complete genocide. Amy was monitoring more signals now, her face twisted with rage and grief. "Captain, I'm picking up Kronak military communications. They're celebrating." "What?" "They're broadcasting across their empire footage of the attacks. They turned the destruction of Earth into entertainment for their people." The main screen showed intercepted Kronak transmissions. Jake watched in horror as alien beings toasted with their strange drinks while images of burning cities played behind them. He saw Kronak commanders laughing as they showed trophies taken from human ships. Children's toys, wedding rings, family photographs. They're calling it the cleansing of the weak species, Amy continued, her voice shaking with fury. They're planning a victory celebration on their homeworld, a festival to celebrate wiping out humanity. Current of Joy made a sound that was like a scream and a song of mourning combined. The noise was so full of grief that it made the ship's hull ring like a bell. Melody of Stars had lost all her colors, her skin now a flat gray that meant despair, beyond words. Depth. Singer spoke for the first time since seeing Earth. Her voice was broken and hollow. We felt it. When it happened. 6 months ago, we felt a great silence fall across the song of life. We thought it was just sadness for missing our new friends, but it was death. The death of 8 billion voices all at once. Jake stood up slowly. Around him, his crew was crying. Ryan Hayes, the tough military officer, had his head in his hands. Ben Clark was staring at the screen showing Earth's corpse, with empty eyes. Lisa Barnes was running calculations with mechanical precision, as if staying busy could keep the grief away. Amy Parker looked up from her station with red eyes. Captain, I'm detecting a few human ships in deep space. Exploration vessels like us that haven't returned home yet. But not many. Maybe a dozen ships total. A few hundred people out of 8 billion. The last humans in the universe. Jake felt the weight of that knowledge settle on his shoulders like a mountain. They were all that was left of their species. All that remained of Earth's children. The Kronak made one mistake, Jake said quietly, his voice colder than space itself. What's that, sir? Ryan asked. They left some of us alive. The 3 Vashti. Ambassadors looked at him with their large, wise eyes. In those eyes, Jake saw something he had never expected to see from the peaceful aliens. Anger. Deep, burning anger mixed with grief for their murdered friends. What do we do now, Jake Morrison? Harmony of Depths had taught Melody of Stars to ask when facing difficult decisions. Jake looked out at the dead world that had been his home. At the moon where his grandmother had worked before she died. At the space where Mars had once dreamed of human colonies full of children and laughter. Now, he said in a voice like winter, we make sure the Kronak learn what happens when you kill humanity's friends. The New Horizon turned away from Earth's grave and set course for dark space. Behind them, the solar system mourned in silence. Ahead of them lay a galaxy that had no idea what humanity was capable of when everything they loved was taken away. In the ship's corridors, 5 humans and 3 aliens began to plan something that would make the stars themselves tremble. Yo, Kronak wanted to celebrate their victory? Earth's last children would make sure that celebration became a funeral instead. The age of human diplomacy was over. The age of human vengeance had begun. The New Horizon drifted through empty space, far from any star or planet. Inside the ship, 6 beings sat around a table in what had once been the diplomatic meeting room. Now it felt more like a war council. Jake Morrison looked at each face, around the table. His crew had changed in the 3 weeks since they found Earth's grave. Ryan Hayes had dark circles under his eyes and spoke only when necessary. Ben Clark worked on the ship's systems with mechanical precision, never smiling anymore. Amy Parker spent her time listening to Kronak communications, her face twisted with hatred every time she heard them laugh about humanity's death. Dr. Lisa Barnes had changed the most. The kind scientist who had been so excited to study alien life now spent her days reading through classified military files, searching for weapons that could kill entire species. We need to face facts, Jake said quietly. 5 humans and 3. Vashti cannot fight an empire that spans dozens of star systems. If we try to attack them directly, we'll just die uselessly. Melody of Stars spoke up, her skin flickering with colors Jake had never seen before. Dark colors, angry colors. The Kronak think they have won completely. They believe all humans are dead. They do not know we exist. That's our advantage, Ryan said, his military mind already working. They're not looking for survivors. Their security is designed to stop armies, not ghosts. Current of Joy had been silent since they left Earth's system, but now she spoke in a voice like broken glass. In our culture, we have stories of the dark song. When someone commits a great evil, the universe itself demands balance. We never believed these stories were real. Maybe they weren't real before, said Depth Singer, her skin pulsing with strange patterns. But they are real now. Lisa Barnes opened a computer file on the table's display screen. I've been going through every classified project in our databases. Humanity developed some terrible weapons during our wars, things so dangerous that every government agreed to never use them. Jake looked at the list of weapon names on the screen. Most of them he had never heard of, but the descriptions made his blood run cold. Viruses that could target specific DNA patterns, nanotechnology that could eat through any material, bombs that could make stars explode. These weapons were created by humans who understood war, Lisa continued. Humans who knew that sometimes you have to do terrible things to stop even worse things from happening. Ben Clark leaned forward. The ship's fabrication systems can build most of these weapons if we modify them. It won't be easy, but it's possible. Amy. Parker pulled up another screen showing Kronak communication intercepts. I've been studying their military structure. They're incredibly arrogant. They truly believe no other species can challenge them. Their security is designed to stop conventional attacks from other military empires, but not unconventional attacks from species they think are extinct, Ryan added. Jake stood up and walked to the room's window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Kronak were celebrating the death of his world. They were laughing about children who would never grow up, about artists who would never create again, about lovers who had died in each other's arms. What kind of people are we becoming? He asked quietly. Melody of Stars joined him at the window. Her skin was now showing colors that meant determination mixed with sorrow. We are becoming what we must become to honor our friends. The Kronak made a choice when they destroyed Earth, said Current of Joy. They chose to be monsters. Now they must face the consequences of that choice. Depth Singer stood up, her body glowing with harmonics that made the ship's walls vibrate. Our people have lived in peace for thousands of years. We never harmed anyone. But you humans taught us something during our time together. What's that? Jake asked. You taught us that some things are worth fighting for. Love is worth fighting for. Friendship is worth fighting for. The memory of the dead is worth fighting for. Lisa Barnes activated another screen. I've found something interesting in the Kronak communications. They're planning a massive celebration on their homeworld. A victory festival to officially celebrate humanity's extinction. Amy nodded. It's scheduled for exactly 1 year after Earth's destruction. Every major Kronak leader will be there. Military commanders, politicians, cultural figures. The entire leadership of their empire in one place. How many? Ryan asked. According to their broadcasts, they expect over 50 million Kronak to attend. They're calling it the greatest celebration in their history. Jake turned back to the table. Then that's where we'll make our move. Not just to kill them, but to send a message to the entire galaxy. What kind of message? Ben asked. That there are some lines you never cross. That friendship is sacred. That if you hurt someone's friends, you will pay a price beyond imagination. Lisa pulled up the weapon files again. I've been working on something new. A combination of human, biotechnology, and Vashti harmonic science. It won't just kill them. It will make them experience what they did to us. Explain, Jake said. A virus that causes the infected to experience the last moments of everyone who died on Earth. 8 billion deaths felt all at once. It won't kill them immediately, but it will drive them insane with the weight of what they've done. The room fell silent. Even Jake felt sick at the thought of such a weapon. Is that what we want to become? Amy asked quietly. Monsters like them? No, said Jake firmly. We'll never be monsters like them. Monsters kill for pleasure. We're doing this for justice, for memory, for love. Current of Joy began to sing softly, a melody that was both beautiful and heartbreaking. In our oldest stories, the universe has a way of balancing itself. Great. Evil calls forth great response. The Kronak have upset the balance of all things. We are the universe's answer to their evil, Melody of Stars said, her skin now showing colors of absolute certainty. Over the next several hours, they planned their war. It would not be a war of armies or fleets. It would be a war of shadows, of terror, of psychological destruction. They would turn the Kronak Empire's own arrogance against them. Ben Clark would modify the ship's systems, turning the New Horizon from an exploration vessel into something that could slip past any defense. Lisa Barnes would create weapons that would make the Kronak wish they had never heard of humanity. Amy Parker would wage information warfare, spreading fear and paranoia through Kronak communications. Ryan Hayes would plan their attacks with the precision of a surgeon and the patience of a hunter. The three Vashti would contribute their advanced biotechnology and their knowledge of harmonic frequencies that could shatter minds and bodies alike. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. 9 months until their celebration, Amy replied. 9 months to prepare. Then we have 9 months to become something the galaxy has never seen before, Jake said. We'll be Earth's ghost, haunting every Kronak who had anything to do with our world's death. Depth Singer stood up, her body glowing with new purpose. We will sing the dark song together, humans and Vashti as one. We will teach the galaxy that friendship is sacred, and those who destroy it will face consequences beyond their worst nightmares. Jake looked around the table one more time. These people, human and alien alike, were all that remained of the greatest friendship in galactic history. The Kronak had tried to end that friendship with violence. They had made a terrible mistake. The Kronak wanted to celebrate the death of humanity, Jake said, his voice as cold as the space between stars. We're going to make sure their celebration becomes their funeral. The New Horizon changed course, heading toward Kronak space. Behind them, Earth's grave grew smaller and smaller. Ahead of them lay 9 months of preparation for a vengeance that would echo through the galaxy for generations. The Kronak Empire had no idea that their victims' best friends were coming for them. They had no idea that love could be more dangerous than any weapon ever built. They were about to learn. 2 years had passed since Earth died. The New Horizon was no longer the same ship that had carried diplomats and scientists to make friends among the stars. Ben Clark had rebuilt it from the inside out, turning it into something that could slip through space like a shadow. The crew had changed even more than their ship. Jake Morrison moved through the corridors like a predator, his eyes cold and calculating. His hair had gone gray at the temples, and he rarely smiled. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 8 billion graves. Ryan Hayes had become something between a soldier and a ghost. He could move through enemy installations without making a sound, leaving death in his wake. His military training had evolved into something darker and more precise. Dr. Lisa Barnes no longer looked like a scientist. Her hands were stained with chemicals that could kill entire planets, and her eyes held knowledge that would have horrified her younger self. She had become Earth's angel of death, creating weapons that would make the Kronak wish they had never been born. Amy Parker spent her days deep in Kronak computer networks, spreading lies and fear with surgical precision. She could make Kronak commanders suspect their own shadows, turning their paranoid military culture against itself. The three Vashti had undergone the most dramatic change. Melody of Stars, Current of Joy, and Depth Singer no longer showed the bright, peaceful colors of their youth. Their skin had darkened to deep blues and purples, colors that meant they had embraced the dark song their ancestors had only whispered about in stories. Their first target had been a Kronak research station in the outer rim of their empire. The station was where human prisoners had been tortured for information before Earth's final destruction. Jake had insisted on leading the assault personally. The Kronak guards never saw him coming. Jake moved through the station's corridors like death itself, using weapons that made no sound and left no trace. When the station's security forces arrived to investigate the silence, they found empty rooms and a message written in human blood on the commander's office wall. Earth remembers. The message spread through Kronak military channels like wildfire. Who could have written it? All humans were dead. But there was the evidence, written in human genetic material that their scientists confirmed was real. Dr. Barnes had struck next, targeting a Kronak military academy, where young officers learned to wage war against inferior species. Her bioweapon was a masterpiece of controlled cruelty. The virus she released caused excruciating pain in every nerve but never killed its victims. For 3 weeks, an entire graduating class of Kronak warriors writhed in agony, screaming for death that would not come. When the pain finally ended, they were left alive but forever changed, their minds broken by the memory of suffering beyond imagination. The Academy's medical staff found another message, this one carved into the Academy's main computer. This is what Earth's children felt when you murdered them. Ben Clark's sabotage was more subtle but equally devastating. He infiltrated Kronak shipyards and planted devices that would cause their newest warships to suffer cascading system failures during their maiden voyages. Entire fleets found themselves stranded in deep space when their engines shut down. Their life support systems failed and their communications went silent. When rescue ships finally reached them weeks later, they found crews driven mad by isolation and fear, babbling about voices in the walls that whispered Earth's name. The Vashti proved terrifyingly effective at psychological warfare. Current of Joy used her people's harmonic abilities to broadcast sounds that drove Kronak soldiers insane. The frequencies were perfectly tuned to disrupt Kronak brain patterns, causing nightmares, hallucinations, and complete mental breakdowns. Depth, Singer, discovered that certain sound patterns could actually shatter Kronak exoskeletons from the inside out. Kronak military units would be found dead in perfect formation, their bodies broken by frequencies that turned their own bones against them. Melody of Stars, specialized in a different kind of horror. She could create harmonics that made Kronak hear the voices of the dead. Kronak officers would suddenly hear human children crying for their mothers, human lovers calling out final words of devotion, human artists singing songs that would never be completed. Amy Parker's information warfare was perhaps the most effective of all. She planted evidence in Kronak military databases suggesting that various commanders were plotting against each other. In a culture built on suspicion and paranoia, these false clues spread like poison. Kronak generals began arresting their own officers on charges of treason. Military units turned on each other, convinced that their comrades were traitors. The Empire's own security apparatus began to consume itself from within. Each strike was surgical, precise, and completely untraceable. The attacks came from nowhere and vanished like smoke. The Kronak military began to call their tormentor the Ghost of Earth, never suspecting that 6 beings in a single modified ship could wage such effective warfare against an entire empire. Kronak. Soldiers started refusing assignments to remote outposts. Officers requested transfers away from any facility that had been attacked. The Empire's military efficiency dropped by 30% as fear spread through their ranks like a plague. Something is hunting us, one Kronak general reported to his superiors. Something that knows our weaknesses, our fears, our guilty secrets. It strikes without warning and leaves only death and madness behind. The Kronak High Command tried to maintain order, but even they were beginning to crack under the psychological pressure. Reports came in daily of impossible attacks, of facilities destroyed by weapons that left no trace, of entire units found, dead or insane with messages about Earth carved into the walls around them. We killed them all, the Kronak Supreme Commander insisted during an emergency meeting. Every human world is ash. Every human ship is destroyed. There are no survivors. But the evidence said otherwise. Human genetic material at crime scenes. Human writing in human languages. References to human culture and human pain. Somehow, impossibly, Earth's children were still alive, and they were very, very angry. Jake Morrison sat in his modified captain's chair, reading the latest intelligence, reports that Amy had gathered from Kronak communications. Fear was spreading through their empire like a virus. Military units were requesting reinforcements. Planets were asking for additional security. The Kronak were starting to jump at shadows. "How many more targets before the celebration?" he asked. 17. Major strikes, Ryan reported. "We've hit 63 facilities so far, each one more devastating than the last." Lisa Barnes looked up from her laboratory where she was preparing something special for the Kronak homeworld. "The bioweapon is almost ready. 1 more month of testing and refinement. The ship modifications are complete, Ben added. We can penetrate their deepest security now. They'll never see us coming. Current of Joy sang a soft melody that made the ship's hull vibrate with barely contained power. The dark song grows stronger with each note we add to it. Soon it will be ready for its final performance. Amy pulled up a display showing the Kronak homeworld. Their celebration is in 4 months. They're still planning to go ahead with it despite all the attacks. They think their homeworld is too well defended for the ghost of Earth to reach. Jake smiled for the first time in months, but it was not a pleasant expression. Let them think that. Let them gather all their leaders in one place. Let them feel safe and confident. He stood up and walked to the viewing window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Kronak were trying to sleep despite the nightmares that plagued them. Somewhere out there, they were checking their locks and looking over their shoulders, wondering when the ghost of Earth would come for them next. They wanted to celebrate the destruction of our friends, Jake said quietly. We're going to give them a celebration they'll never forget. The New Horizon continued its silent journey through space, carrying 6 beings who had become something the galaxy had never seen before. They were no longer human and Vashti. They were something new, something born from love and forged in the fire of absolute loss. They were Earth's vengeance, and they were almost ready to complete their terrible song. The Kronak homeworld of Koraketh hung in space like a massive fortress. Orbital defense platforms surrounded the planet like deadly jewels, their weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. Patrol ships moved in perfect formations, scanning space for any sign of the ghost of Earth that had terrorized their empire for 2 years. But the New Horizon passed through their defenses like smoke through a screen. Ben Clark's modifications had made the ship invisible to their sensors, while stolen Kronak identification codes convinced their computers that it was just another celebration transport bringing guests to the Victory Festival. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the planet grow larger on the screen. The surface was covered with massive cities built from black stone and metal. In the largest city, Karn Moor, 50 million Kronak had gathered to celebrate the greatest victory in their history, the complete destruction of humanity. Are we ready? Jake asked his crew. Dr. Lisa Barnes nodded from her science station. The bioweapon is loaded into the atmospheric processors. Once released, it will spread across the entire planet within 6 hours. Amy Parker checked her communication systems one last time. I have control of every satellite and transmission array in the system. When you give the word, I can broadcast to the entire galaxy. Ryan Hayes confirmed the placement of the quantum charges. The devices are ready. They won't destroy the planet, but they'll transform it into something the galaxy will never forget. The 3 Vashti stood together, their skin glowing with colors darker than deep space. They had spent weeks preparing for this moment, combining their voices into something that would carry their message across the stars. The dark song is ready, Melody of Stars said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the ship's walls vibrate. Every species in the galaxy will hear what we sing today. On the planet below, the celebration was reaching its peak. Giant screens throughout Carnmore showed footage of Earth's destruction, playing the final moments of human civilization over and over again for the entertainment of the crowds. Kronak leaders gave speeches about the glory of wiping out the weak human species. In the center of the city, a massive monument had been built from the melted remains of human ships. Kronak children played games where they pretended to kill humans. Vendors sold souvenirs made from human artifacts stolen from Earth before its destruction. Jake watched it all through the ship's sensors, his face carved from stone. Around him, his crew prepared for the moment they had worked toward for 2 long years. It's time, Jake said quietly. Amy Parker activated every communication system on the planet. Suddenly, every screen in Carnmore went black. Every radio fell silent. Then slowly, an image appeared on every display in the city, on every communication device in the Kronak Empire, on every information network in the galaxy. It was the face of Captain Jake Morrison, broadcasting from the bridge of the New Horizon. Behind him stood his crew, human and Vashti together, their eyes filled with the cold fire of absolute justice. When Jake spoke, His voice was heard by every intelligent species in the galaxy. His words were translated into 1,000 languages by systems Amy had prepared months in advance. "People of the galaxy," Jake began, his voice calm and terrible. "My name is Jake Morrison. I am one of the last humans alive. 2 years ago, the Kronak Empire murdered my entire species. 8 billion men, women, and children burned to death for the crime of existing. On the planet below, 50 million Kronak stared at their screens in shock. The ghost of Earth had a face now, and it was speaking to them directly from somewhere above their heads. The Kronak destroyed our friends," Jake continued. "They turned genocide into entertainment. They celebrated the death of children. They made trophies from the ashes of our world." The camera pulled back to show the 3 Vashti standing beside the human crew. "These are our friends. The Vashti came to Earth in peace, seeking to build bridges between our species. Instead, they found only graves. But friendship does not die with death. Love does not end with murder." Jake's voice grew colder, harder. "You made the mistake of leaving some of us alive to remember. This is Earth's answer to your celebration." Dr. Barnes activated her weapon. High above Koraketh, invisible containers opened and released their contents into the planet's atmosphere. The bioweapons spread like morning mist, touching every Kronak on the surface within minutes. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the Kronak in the celebration began to scream. The weapon Lisa had created was not designed to kill quickly. Instead, it made every infected Kronak experience the last moments of every human who had died during Earth's destruction. 50 million Kronak suddenly felt the terror of 8 billion humans facing death. They experienced the fear of children calling for parents who could not save them. They felt the agony of lovers dying in each other's arms. They lived through the despair of artists watching their life's work burn. They endured the rage of soldiers who fought hopeless battles against impossible odds. All of it at once. All of it forever burned into their minds. The Kronak commanders who had ordered the attacks felt it worst of all. They experienced every death they had caused, every life they had ended, every dream they had destroyed. Their minds shattered under the weight of 8 billion final moments. As the Kronak writhed in agony, Ryan Hayes activated the quantum charges hidden throughout the planet's crust. The devices triggered a reaction that transformed Koraketh's surface into living crystal, preserving the Kronak in their moment of realization for all eternity. The planet became a monument of crystallized suffering, where the Kronak would remain, forever conscious, forever experiencing the pain they had caused, unable to die but forced to remember what they had done. But the Vashti had prepared something even more powerful than weapons or monuments. The 3 aliens joined their voices in a song that broadcast across subspace to every corner of the galaxy. It was a song of mourning for humanity, of love for friendship, and of warning to any species that might consider following the Kronak's path. The song carried the harmonics to shatter any Kronak ships trying to escape the system, but more importantly, it carried a message that would echo through the galaxy for generations. The song told the story of Earth's friendship with the Vashti, of the beautiful culture that had been destroyed, of the dreams that had been burned away. It spoke of love that transcended species, of bonds that death could not break, of justice that would always find a way. As the crystal planet Koraketh took its final form, Jake broadcast one last message to the galaxy. Earth had friends, he said, his voice carrying across space to every inhabited world. Earth taught love. Earth showed the universe that different species could live in harmony. The Kronak destroyed that gift. Remember Koraketh, and remember the price of making humanity's friends weep. The New Horizon turned away from the crystal tomb that had once been the Kronak homeworld. Behind them, the planet hung in space like a frozen scream, a permanent reminder of what happened when friendship was betrayed. The ship set course for the edge of the galaxy, carrying the last humans and their alien friends toward unexplored space. They had genetic samples and cultural records needed to eventually restore both their species, but they also carried something more valuable. They carried the knowledge that friendship was sacred, that love could transcend any barrier, and that some bonds were worth any price to defend. Years later, when new species achieved space travel and made their first contact with other civilizations, they would approach with reverence and caution. They had all heard the Song of Koraketh, all seen the crystal planet that stood as an eternal warning. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Friendship was not weakness. Love was not foolishness. And those who destroyed either would face consequences beyond imagination. Earth's children were gone, but Earth's justice was forever. And in the deep spaces between the stars, the song of the Vashti still echoed its message to any who would listen. Some bonds transcend species. Some loves transcend death. Some vengeance transcends time. The last humans and their friends disappeared into the unknown, carrying with them the seeds of new worlds and the memory of old ones. Behind them, they left a galaxy that would never again mistake kindness for weakness or friendship for something that could be safely destroyed. The celebration was over. The lesson had begun.